There's a new day dawning, the time is at hand, where the glory of the Lord will be revealed to every man. Open the door, open the door, open the door, and let the King of Glory in. Open the door, open the door, open the door, and let the King of Glory in.
All right, let the King of Glory in. Open up the door. Starts right now. So think wise, you heavenly gates. Prepare the way of the risen Lord. The Apostle John was on the island of Patmos. He was in prison for the testimony of Jesus Christ. And he heard a sound behind him, and he said, Behold, I looked. There was a door standing open in heaven, and I heard a voice which was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, Come up here, and I will show you the things which must take place. That's what we need, my friends. We need a heavenly perspective to the things that are going on in the world around us, the things that the Word of God foretold us would come to pass, those things which must take place, those things which are taking place even now. That is what this broadcast is all about, discussing the issues of the day, discerning the times in which we live from a biblical perspective and worldview. Good afternoon, everybody. Andy White here. And, of course, what you are about to hear is the fusion of heart, mind, and soul. I want to welcome everybody from all across the fruited plain and all around the spherical globe. Thanks for tuning in for this week's edition of Open Up the Doors, streaming live over Facebook. If you'd like to join us there on Facebook, you can go on over to my Open Up the Doors Facebook page at facebook.com/faithfm91.7. That's facebook.com/faithfm91.7. And please join in the conversation over there. Let me know where you're watching from, and please share this into your streams as well, and invite people to Open Up the Doors. Invite them to like the page over there at facebook.com/faithfm91.7. Also, if you'd like to follow me on Parler, you can find me on Parler. You can follow me on Parler. You can stalk me on Parler at AJ White 777. Go on over to Parler, folks. I've been spending most of my posting time and my commenting time over there in the free speech zone of Parler, and really posting less and less on Facebook because of their what's the word I want to use? I want to be nice. I'm on the radio. Because of their overbearing and overwhelming censorship. And I just can't put up with them anymore. Not only do they censor things, their stupid fact checkers are really dumb, stupid idiots. Okay, I'm not being nice, but they are. I won't digress down that path so much already. But we are streaming on the internet. Let me move along. We are streaming on the internet at hamptonschristian.com. If you are outside of the Faith FM broadcast area, the best way to listen to Faith FM 24/7 for Christian broadcasting from the East End of Long Island is to download the Faith FM apps. They are free. You can get the app for the Android, Google Play, your Android phone system, your Apple iPad, iPhone, your Apple devices. You can get it, of course, at the App Store. Just look up Faith FM, and you'll get the free app. Download it. Great way to listen to Christian broadcasting from the East End of Long Island, as I've said. All right, I think that covers my preliminaries as far as I can tell. If I forgot anything, I'll just have to get to it later. But there is so much I want to get to, but I totally will not be able to. But I need to say right from the get-go what is going on in this nation, what is going on in this country it's another disgrace. I don't know if any of you caught President Trump's address to the nation yesterday that he recorded and he put out on social media for those that would play it, since he's getting censored so much. But Trump's address to the nation yesterday, I watched it, and if you didn't watch it, you can catch it. I'm sure you can get it on Rumble. I would imagine YouTube might have it. Maybe, who knows with them. But I was able to watch it last night when I got home from work, and I thought it was very brave what he did. And you know he's going to get hammered for it. You know he's going to be misrepresented for the things he said. You know the things he said are going to be taken out of context and twisted. And I thought his address to the nation yesterday really was both brave and it was true. This is the important part. It was true. However, whatever way the liars and the frauds in the media want to spin it, the things that Donald Trump said in that address yesterday when he said it's the most important speech of my life, he was true. He was right. Trump, speaking from the White House, as I said in a video that he released on social media, said his job as president is to defend the laws and Constitution of the United States, and that he is determined to protect the election system, which he said is under coordinated assault and siege. That's a quote. Under coordinated assault and siege. He's absolutely right, my friends. He is right in that statement, and he's right in his assessment. Trump accused the Democrats of implementing a mass mail-in balloting scheme in order to steal the election and outlined aspects of the November 3rd election that he sees as suspicious and fraudulent within that speech. Again, if you haven't listened to it, go and listen to it. He was absolutely correct in the things he was stating. Because there is a mountain of evidence that is piling up. There is a mountain of evidence indicating the things that he's saying were very true and are very true. He further said in his speech yesterday, quote, using the pandemic as a pretext, Democratic officials and judges drastically changed election procedures in the months and weeks leading up to the election in an apparent violation of the Constitution. Again, he is correct. Not only has the federal Constitution, with some of these state laws, been violated, state constitutions. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has violated not only the federal Constitution in changing election law before the election, but their own Pennsylvania state constitution. And that's why these things are being taken to the courts. And that's why I said a moment ago, the things that are going are disgraceful. Because people, governors and courts are making up law by fiat against the constitutions of both state and U.S. constitutions. We become a nation of liars and cheats and corrupt, wicked judges. And it's shameful. That is what we are dealing with in this nation. Liars and cheats and corrupt, wicked judges. Everyone from time immemorial has known an unregulated, universal mail-in ballot election was extremely prone to fraud. I want to play a clip for you guys. Very interesting clip. I'm surprised it's still on YouTube. Because back in 2008, even Chris Matthews, remember Chris Matthews? Even Chris Matthews and Barack Obama, way back in 2008, had this little exchange about mail-in voting. Listen up.
Very last question. There's word from Florida that they intend to put out a mailing sort of a campaign, an election process whereby they make up for the primary they had before, which was ruled out of order by the Democratic National Committee, and you did not campaign in. They're talking about people mailing in their ballots. Do you trust the security, the honesty of such an election process?
Well, I think we'd have to figure out whether this was fraud-proof. I mean, Oregon, for example, has a terrific mail-in system, but they've already scanned everybody's signatures who's registered to vote so that they can check to make sure that, in fact, the right people are voting. And that's something that I think you'd have to figure out.
Bingo. Isn't that an amazing clip from 2008? These things were discussed way back when. Everyone has known. Even Jimmy Carter did a report a few years ago stating that mail-in ballots were prone to fraud. And what Barack Obama, President Obama, said back in 2008 was absolutely true. The states that had mail-in voting were doing it for a while, and they had a good system down. What did he reference? Oregon? But all these states that just did it now, they did it willy-nilly. And no one is checking the signatures, and that is the problem. Did you hear what Obama said? We have to figure out. This Oregon had a good system. They got everyone's signature scanned and on file. But this is the problem today. They're not doing that in these states like Georgia and Pennsylvania and Michigan. They're not comparing the signatures. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It is disgraceful what is going on. And the mass media blackouts of what is really going on with this fraudulent election is information warfare at its worst, or its best, depending on what side you're on. Now think about what I just said. Depending on what side you're on. Isn't it even a shame that I would even say, depending on what side you're on? Because pursuing truth shouldn't have a side. Wanting and desiring an honest election with integrity and credibility should be something all honest people should want. You with me, Facebook? Any comments? Any thumbs up? I mean, maybe I'm preaching a little bit to the choir, but I want you to think about these things. There are sides to that point of depending on what side you're on. Yesterday, in a Senate hearing in Michigan dealing with the voter fraud issues, a poll observer testified yesterday in front of the Senate, the Michigan Senate committee. And her name was, and I'm probably going to butcher her name really, her name is Haima I can't even pronounce her last name. I'm just going to call her Haima Giretti. She was a poll observer, and she told lawmakers that during her interactions on Election Day with Democratic poll observers and election workers, she faced intimidation when she wore a tag indicating she was with the GOP, the Republicans. She said she did a little bit of an experiment. When she wore a tag saying she was independent, she was treated differently. Listen to this quote of hers. She's apparently a black woman. She said, quote, "From my skin color, everyone assumes that I'm a Democrat. So they just kind of come to me." And one of the ladies came up to me and was saying, "Let's get these blankety blanks out of here." And I replied to blankety blank who? She was referring to the Republican poll watchers. Let's get these blankety blanks out of here. Folks, by law, both parties are allowed poll watchers, by law. But here's the interesting thing. She said, when I pulled out my tag, after she said, "Let's get these blankety blanks out of here," she said, when I pulled out my tag, she looked at me and said, "You're on the wrong side." I'll say it again. Isn't it a shame that we would even say, depending on what side you're on, or you're on the wrong side? Because pursuing truth shouldn't have a side. Wanting and desiring an honest election with integrity and credibility should be something all honest people should want. I'll say it again. The media, particularly big tech, big media, is on a full disinformation and propaganda war against the truth. All the while, here's the thing, all the while, they are making it seem as though the good and honest people who are questioning this election with legitimate concerns and questions, they're the crazy ones. It's the very definition of gaslighting. The big media and big tech narrative weavers are liars and cheats. They are dishonest, duplicitous. It's disgraceful. In fact, it's flat out wickedness. And in many ways, it's truly scary, brothers and sisters, because they have flipped reality upside down. And if you're a normal, average person looking at all of this, and there are two groups of people. There are the normal, average people who are looking at this. And then there are people who are just living their everyday lives, who don't really watch the news. Not that it would matter, because they're not getting it in the news. But the media is trying to convince you that you're the crazy one if you're looking at this and you're watching these hearings. Now, of course, they've been doing this for a long time. But in 2020, they've taken it to a whole other level. I was thinking about this the other day. They've taken their gaslighting in 2020 to a whole other level. The fraud and the gaslighting that's been done by the media in 2020 is of epic proportions. Think about it, folks. Think about the year we've had. Going back to last January, from the fake impeachment in January to the still ongoing fear-mongering narrative of the coronavirus, from the gaslighting engaged in during the rioting and looting over the summer, to the ignoring of the Hunter Biden laptop revelations and scandals this past fall, to now the year-end grand finale of a virtual media blackout, and cover-up of massive election fraud and a bogus election. And that's what is going on right now. It's a massive cover-up. After having refused to cover the biggest scandal of the pre-election season, that would be the Hunter Biden laptop, BLM. I'm all for BLM. Biden's laptop mattered. But they refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop and the Biden family corruption. And now the media refuses to cover what is probably, really, the biggest scandal in U.S. history, a stolen presidential election. Fraud? What fraud? We hear from the media. There is no evidence of fraud. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Scandal? What scandal? There's no scandal. You're crazy. These people who are talking about fraud and all this stuff, they're crazy. To call this election a travesty would be to grossly underestimate its significance. This is far more than a travesty, my friends. It's a tragedy of incomprehensible consequences. The fingerprints of fraud are all over this election debacle. And if it's not dealt with and fixed in a credible way, the consequences will be devastating to this nation. I see a brother. Hi, Brother Ron on Facebook. Thanks for joining in. Brother Ron just commented on Facebook, until the public has had enough and takes a stand, the wrongdoers will become more and more brazen. Well, I agree with you, Ron. Thanks for that comment. I agree with you. I fear we're past the point of no return. Again, it's the lying, it's the cheating, it's the gaslighting. The media keeps using terms over and over and over again, like terms like unsubstantiated allegations, baseless conspiracy theories. They keep saying, where is the evidence of fraud? Yet, here's the thing, folks, this past week. Yet when there are these hearings, there's been hearings since the day before Thanksgiving, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin. They're having these hearings. The media's been saying, where's the evidence of fraud? But they are refusing to cover these hearings. It's a mass cover-up. They refuse to cover it. They refuse to report on it. They refuse to listen to the evidence. I want to tell you, my friends, big media and big tech are totally complicit in helping to cover up, I'll say it again, what is possibly the greatest crime in American history. A blatantly fraudulent and stolen presidential election. That is what we are witnessing. Why didn't the media cover the Pennsylvania hearing last Wednesday? Why didn't the media cover the Arizona hearing on Monday or the Michigan hearing on Tuesday? I'll tell you why. Because for them, it's not about finding out the truth. It's about suppressing the truth in unrighteousness, as the Word of God tells us. Although they knew the truth, they refused to believe the truth, and they suppressed the truth. Because anyone with a modicum of honesty, anyone, you want to see where the fraud is? You want to see what these people are saying? Anyone with a modicum of honesty, a modicum of intelligence, who watched the full hearings, any of them, but the full hearing in Pennsylvania or the hearing in Arizona or Michigan, they can now see with eyes wide open the massive fraud that is going on in this faux election. Let me tell you a little story about my mom. My mom spent the Thanksgiving weekend with us. It was a great time. We had a nice chilling out of a Thanksgiving. But here's the thing. My mom is a lifelong, she's 85 years old, she's a lifelong Democrat. And for years and years and years, I've been saying, Mom, the Democrats of today, they're not the Democrats of Grandma and Grandpa, of your mom and dad. It's not the same party, Mom. So anyway, we got into talking about stuff, and I could tell she didn't know anything at all what's going on. See, when my mother watches, when she watches TV at home, she watches Channel 2, CBS, Channel 4, NBC, Channel 5, which is the local Fox station here in New York, Channel 7, ABC. She watches the networks. That's what she grew up on. She doesn't watch cable news. So she's watching ABC, NBC, CBS. And I started talking to her about the things that are going on. She's like, well, what are you talking about? She literally had no idea. Literally had no idea. So I said, Mom, you got to watch this. I put on the video. It was Thanksgiving Day. You got to be telling me, what? You did what on Thanksgiving Day? Listen, it was just me, Marcia, and my wife. I mean, Marcia is my wife. Me, Marcia, and my mom. Excuse me. Marcia's cooking, and me and my mom are sitting in the living room. And I didn't get to watch the whole hearing from the day before, so I wanted to watch it anyway. So I had the video on from the Pennsylvania hearing. And my mom is sitting there dumbfounded because witness after witness after witness, expert testimony after expert testimony. And my mother is literally sitting there. She's like, I haven't heard any of this. This is the first time I'm hearing about any of this. Because she only watches ABC, NBC, CBS. You know the routine. I said, Mom, you listen to those stations, you're not going to hear the truth. They're covering this up. They keep saying there's no fraud, there's no evidence of fraud. But they're not reporting on these hearings where all of the evidence is being brought forth. And understand this, the people that are bringing forth the evidence have signed sworn affidavits. I saw a news report the other day, and the reporter said, all these people came in, but they weren't put under oath. And I'm thinking, you stupid, moronic journalist, you don't know how to do your job. Because if you were a true reporter, you would have known that these people who are coming in signed sworn affidavits, which is like being under oath. It is being under oath. You sign these sworn affidavits under penalty of perjury. So if people are making this stuff up, fine, bust them, send them to jail. But there's hundreds of them. There's hundreds of them. And you know what my mom said? Let me get back to the story. My mom sat there after an hour and a half, 2 hours, and she said, "This is Thanksgiving Day." She said, "On Monday, I'm going down to the Board of Elections in my town, and I'm changing my party affiliation. I'm changing my party affiliation. I can't be a Democrat anymore." Now I didn't encourage her. I just looked at her and kind of giggled. I said, "Well, better late than never." But here's the thing. People are in the dark because the media is not doing their job. And when somebody who's like my mom, who I'm gonna tell you something, my mom is basically kind of apolitical. She's not the political junkie that I am. Not by any stretch of the imagination. And she just sat there watching the hearing, and she could see the credibility of the witnesses and the horror stories of the fraud. And she just flat out said, "Wow, that's it. I'm changing my party." Because the evidence of fraud that is coming out is even worse than we even imagined. I got to check the time here because I got a lot of stuff. I haven't even gotten into the stuff I wanted to share. But for instance, and there's so much I obviously can't go into all of it. But some of the more salient points was a testimony that was given, and these are experts. These are, again, people who signed sworn affidavits. There was the expert testimony that was given that there was a 600,000 vote drop at 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. 600,000 vote drop. It kind of basically came out of nowhere. And when asked what the breakup of those votes were, the person said, out of those 600,000 votes, and I'm just rounding it off. It was really like 600,000, 200 something. I'm just rounding it off. But the testimony was given that 600,000 vote drop came in. 570,000 ballots were for Biden and 3,200 for Trump. Folks, that is a statistical impossibility. And that is what this guy was attesting to. It's just statistically impossible for 600,000 votes to come in with only 3,200 for Trump. Yet, and here's the point I really wanted to make, that was a bombshell of humongous proportions, you would think, but there wasn't one single report of it in the media. Not one single report. I'm calling it the great cover-up. Mathematician Bobby Pitton was suspended by Twitter this past Monday as he was testifying in Arizona. And I watched this. This guy was kind of like a mathematical genius. Quite honestly, I had a hard time following him. I'm not good with numbers, people. I'm not a numbers guy. You start throwing a lot of numbers at me, and my head just goes, I just start going like a deer in the headlights kind of a look. But I was listening to him. He's going through, he went through all this analysis of the data. He's given his expert opinion. He wasn't on Twitter. He wasn't posting anything. As he's giving his testimony to the Arizona Senate Committee, Twitter banned and blocked his account. He hadn't done a thing except that he was testifying at that very moment. This isn't a cover-up. This isn't censorship. This isn't fascism. It most certainly is. And after he gave his testimony and and the analysis of his data, he said this in his professional opinion. He said in his professional opinion, after looking at all of the data that was given to him by the state of Arizona, it was the state's data that was given to him. He said that the numbers that were certified as the election result were in fact fraudulent. He said there is no way that the certification of those numbers was accurate. And he said, quote, I would put my life on it. Expert witness. And folks, you can get these clips. If you haven't watched the hearings in any of these states, I would encourage you to go get the clips. You can see them on Rumble. You can see them on One America News Network. You can see them on Breitbart. You're not going to find them on Twitter. You're not going to find them on Facebook for the most part, or YouTube. Maybe, but if you want to get these clips, go on over to Rumble. The guy in Pennsylvania, the senator who was holding these hearings, Senator Doug Mastriano, Twitter banned him within 24 hours of holding the hearings in Pennsylvania. You know, it's incredible because it was just a few weeks ago. It was just a few weeks ago that Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter, he appeared in front of a congressional hearing, a U.S. Senate congressional hearing, to try and explain why Twitter blocked the Hunter Biden reports. Why did Twitter block the New York Post from reporting on Biden's laptop? You see, folks, here's the problem. These hearings in the Senate, these hearings in Congress, if there are no sanctions and ramifications and consequences on these tech tyrants, then they're meaningless. Because Jack Dorsey hasn't amended his ways after the hearings. Zuckerberg hasn't amended his ways with Facebook after these hearings. And it's just happening more and more. Liars, cheats, and corrupt judges. That's what we're dealing with. There's an undeniable mountain of election fraud evidence that's being gathered, as well as corrupted and unlawful election irregularities. Not only is the media completely trying to cover them up, but here's the other issue. None of this perfectly good evidence will do a bit of good when we've also got judges who are either corrupt or cowards. I'll be back with more. I got so much more, but I got to take a break. Hey, you know what? It's that time of the year. I'm gonna take a break, give you guys a mental break, give my throat a little bit of a break here, but I'm going to play my first Christmas song of the Christmas season. Lincoln Brewster, Hark the Herald Angels. I love this version. I absolutely love this version. So for those of you who've been waiting for Christmas music, here you go. It's blast off time. Glory to the King, yeah. Hark the Herald Angels, Lincoln Brewster. I absolutely love that version. Lincoln just rocks. He just rocks Hark the Herald Angels, which happens to be my favorite Christmas carol. I might have one or two other ones too. Oh, Holy Night's a great one too. But man, that is just such an exciting version of Hark the Herald Angels. And Lincoln is such a great guitar player, so he just knows how to rock that tune. Hey, by the way, if you are just tuning in, welcome back. Andy White here. You are listening to Open Up the Doors here on Faith FM, WEGB 90.7 and 93.3 Napeague, and WEGQ 91.7 in Quogue. I need to say that the views expressed by the hosts of this show, namely me, are molded by the Word of God along with the empirical evidence, both experiential and observational, which is lived out by me on a daily basis. And these views expressed by me may not necessarily be the views of Faith FM or Hampton's Christian Fellowship, but they are my views, and we practice free speech here on the east end of Long Island on Faith FM. But having said all that, I got to put a disclaimer out there. If you'd like to discuss anything I've shared, if you'd like to discuss my views, you could certainly follow me on Parler at ajwhite777 or email me at ajwhite777@icloud.com. If you'd like to have a little discussion with me, again, my email is ajwhite777@icloud.com. I've got so much stuff here that I wanted to touch upon. I almost don't know. I started talking about some of these judges. Liars, cheats. We've got liars and cheats in the media. And sadly, we've got a lot of corrupt, wicked judges or cowardly judges sitting on courts as well. We've got leftist activist courts like the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and also federal judges that are compromised. If they're not compromised, some of them are just corrupt and cowards. They're afraid of the deep state. They're afraid of the leftist backlash. You know, I look through some of the social media feeds, and I see the leftists. I see all these mockers and scoffers who are gleefully pointing out that a lot of these election fraud cases are being thrown out a lot of the courts. Now, what they're not realizing is a couple of things. One, what they're not realizing is that a lot of the president's cases haven't really been brought yet, that these are private cases that are being thrown out. Nevertheless, they're being gleeful about it because, as I said a moment ago, they're trying to make us look like we're the crazy ones. But, let me tell you something. Here's the thing. Fear, let's put wickedness, let's put corruption and wickedness on the side for one moment. Because fear is a great motivating emotion. Remember a few weeks ago, two of the Republican election certifiers in Michigan said they weren't going to certify the election, and they started getting death threats, and they started getting pushback from the left and from the Democrats in the Michigan state house. One state legislature was doxing this Republican woman's kids, doxing where her kids were going to school. So they said they weren't going to certify. Then, because of all the threats and the pressure, they said, all right, we're going to certify, but we'll certify on condition that there's going to be an audit. As soon as they signed the certification, the governor turned and said, no, we're not going to audit. The election commission, the Secretary of State there in Michigan, said, no, there's not going to be an audit. These people are liars and cheats. And if they can't get their way through lying and cheating, then they'll try to get their way through fear, through death threats. Fear, I'll say it again, fear is a great motivating factor, motivating emotion, especially for cowards. And sad to say, many of the judges sitting on these courts are political cowards. Again, they're fearful of the deep state. They're fearful of death threats, and maybe rightfully so. You know what? Let's just move along to get along. Who needs this nonsense? But unfortunately, what's so disheartening about these things is that the home of the brave has sadly been emasculated by the zeitgeist. The Federal Appeals Court last Friday rejected President Trump's lawsuit against Pennsylvania officials over widespread voter fraud. In this 21-page opinion written by Judge Stephanos Bibas, he said this, quote, "Free, fair elections are the lifeblood of our democracy," the judge wrote. "Charges of unfairness are serious, but calling an election unfair does not make it so. Charges require specific allegations and then proof. We have neither here." When I read that, I said, what? Again, am I in a twilight zone? You have no proof? You have no evidence? This was from, when was this? Last Friday or something? This was at least after this was only after the Pennsylvania hearing. Now there's been 4 or 5 more hearings in different states. But again, Trump's lawyer, Janet Ellis, said the activist judicial machinery in Pennsylvania continues to cover up the allegations of massive fraud. Again, cover up, media cover up, judicial cover up. It's insane, folks. It goes back to what Joseph Stalin said, unfortunately. It's not the people who vote that count. It's the people who count the votes. And it's so hard to believe and so disheartening to believe that America has reached this point. Hearing after hearing after hearing, data, stats, and facts. Watching these hearings has been unbelievable. I watched the entire Pennsylvania hearing, as I said. I watched the entire Arizona hearing, as I've said. I've only seen snippets of the one in Michigan from yesterday so far. But the evidence, the amount of evidence, the amount of witnesses, the amount of experts giving expert testimony is mind-boggling. They're talking about fractional votes on these voting machines, how the algorithms would give Joe Biden like 1.35% of a vote and Donald Trump 0.75. Wait a minute, what? What do you mean fractional vote counting? It's one man, one vote, one woman, one vote, right? One person, one vote. No, they're showing that some of these machines were set up to give fractional distributions in the algorithms. There's been truckloads of pre-prepared ballots. Data expert after data expert after data expert have been testifying with signed and sworn affidavits. And then the other day I hear Bill Barr come out. Now, he's clarified what he said and what he meant. The AP kind of misrepresented what he said. But I have to admit, when I first heard it, I said, again, am I in the twilight zone? Bill Barr said, oh, there's no evidence of massive voter fraud. I'm thinking to myself, have you not been watching these hearings? You are the head of the DOJ. We come to find out it's not really what he meant, thankfully. He simply said that they haven't been given anything themselves as an investigation. So they haven't found anything, and they're waiting for things to go through the courts, and they are amassing some evidence. So what he said was kind of mischaracterized by the media. No surprise there. But again, all of this massive amount of expert testimony, you're not seeing it on any news reports at night. You're not seeing it on ABC, NBC, CBS. They're not reporting on it. They keep saying, where's the fraud, and then they're not reporting on it. Another expert, Matt Brainerd, and his team at the Voter Integrity Project, they conducted a review of ballot and election results in the 2020 election. Brainerd performed 35 experiments in 5 states regarding voter data in the presidential election. According to Matt Brainerd's findings, in at least 3 of the states, the number of questionable or potentially fraudulent ballots exceeds the vote margin between Trump and Biden. Now, the FBI seemingly has been paying attention, because Brainerd said after his testimony that the FBI did reach out to him, and they asked his team to hand over the evidence and the underlying their findings. Thank God they make copies, because we all know these past few years now that you give the FBI evidence and it seems to just like go into the Bermuda Triangle. It disappears. But the point right now is the FBI seemed to think it was something worth looking into after they heard this guy Matt Brainerd's testimony. Justin Hart, another data expert, said this: vote tabulation feeds in Pennsylvania and Georgia show anomalies suggesting Trump was missing votes. Listen to this. Not that he just didn't get votes, they actually disappeared. He said there's a lot of anomalies in the data that shows votes just that they were first tabulated, and then when they were totaled, they disappeared. Dr. Shiva Ayadori, who's kind of a well-known guy, presented a very powerful testimony. Dr. Shiva presented his data in Arizona showing that the only way for Joe Biden to have statistically caught up with President Trump was if Democrats voted Votes came in at 130% for Biden and minus 30% for Trump. That was the only way Joe Biden could have taken Arizona. Of course, that's impossible. And the media is trying to make it seem like these people are nut jobs and quacks. Dr. Shiva has 4 degrees from MIT. He's got 2 master's degrees and a PhD. He's an expert in pattern analysis. He's an expert in pattern recognition in his field of expertise. And he said it's completely implausible. The numbers in Arizona are completely implausible, Dr. Shiva said. There's one more guy I'm going to get to. I got to go to another break. Because this guy, Navid Kesheravnia, the New York Times called this guy the smartest guy in the room. The New York Times a few months back did a report on this big super espionage, what's the word I want to look for? Investigation that took down this one person. And this guy, Dr. Kashivania, was the genius that broke open this investigation. This Dr. Kashivania, those who work with him, this is from the New York Times, those who worked with him said he was always the smartest person in the room. He's an expert in doing he's doing cybersecurity and technical counterintelligence work for the CIA, the NSA, the FBI. He has spent decades connecting top secret dots. After several months of working with Mr. Courtney, the guy they were investigating, he began connecting those dots too. They busted this guy because of this doctor's testimony. And the New York Times upheld this guy. Well, this guy is now working with Sidney Powell. And in a sealed affidavit, he said this: I conclude with high confidence that the election 2020 data were altered in all battleground states, resulting in hundreds of thousands of votes that were cast for President Trump to be transferred to Vice President Biden. These are not conspiratorial whack jobs, my friends. And like I said, the New York Times held up this particular guy as really, really credible. And this is what he's saying now. This person, this Dr. I can't say this guy's name, Kershavaras, is now working with Sidney Powell, as I said. And it says here that this is his conclusion. The counts in the disputed states show electronic manipulation. The simultaneous decision in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia to pretend to halt the counting votes, which they did in the middle of the night, was unprecedented and demonstrated a coordinated effort to collude toward desired results. This guy says that the hammer and scorecard cyber attack is not a hoax. It's true. This guy knows it's true. It goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. And I got to take another break. But folks, again, all of this testimony is out there in the public domain. The video footage of these hearings is out there. If you have not seen them, go and watch them. Because anyone saying there isn't overwhelming evidence of massive, widespread fraud, including so-called judges in liberal districts, is willfully, and I stress willfully, deaf, dumb, blind, and stupid. And I want to emphasize willfully, because the information is out there. Ignorance may be excusable. Willful denial and suppression of the truth is inexcusable, and it's damnable. The scripture says, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Nevertheless, I'm going to play another Christmas tune, because God, in his infinite mercy, has provided a way for us to escape that wrath. And that is what this Christmas season really is all about. That is what Christmas is all about. Emmanuel has come. God with us has come to save us from our sins, to save us from that wrath of God, if we would but believe in him and embrace him and submit to his truth. Stick around, folks. I'll be right back.
Sign shall be given, a virgin will conceive.
of Heart, Mind, and Soul. This is Open Up the Doors with Andy White here on Faith FM, WEGB 90.7 and 93.3 in FB, WEGQ 91.7 in Quad. Hey, little bit of a Trans-Siberian Orchestra bumper music there as we head on in to the Christmas season. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining in. We've only got a few more minutes left here on Open Up the Doors. Let me share a couple of things with you. If you have never subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. All of these radio broadcasts are archived over there. We take the music out of them. We shorten them up. We also, Debbie, our video producer, also brings in better audio quality onto the live stream. And it's a really nice production that she does. They're all in the archives there on the YouTube channel. Just look up Andy White, Open Up the Doors, hit the little subscription button. There's a little bell next to that. If you hit the bell, you'll get notifications when we upload these broadcasts, as well as other things that we produce here at Open Up the Doors. All for your use, all for resources for you to use to share the gospel with people. They'll find all kinds of things there, sermons that I've preached, sermons that I've liked. Again, it's a library. It's full of stuff for you to use. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, once again, you can follow me on Parler at AJ White 777 if you have a Parler account. And if you never liked our Facebook page from where I am streaming right now, again, like the Facebook page as well at facebook.com/faithfm91.7. Okay, I think that covers some of that stuff there. How do I want to wrap this up? I only got a couple minutes left here. So much to say and so little time to say it in. You know, the writer of Proverbs, who was mostly Solomon, said this in Proverbs 28:13. Solomon said, "He who covers his sins will not prosper." It's a principle of Scripture, folks. He who covers his sins will not prosper, whether it's an individual or a people or a society or a nation. We won't prosper. God won't allow a corrupt society to prosper. That we have seen cover up after cover up after cover up in this nation going back a long time. The trajectory of this nation is a trajectory of grave consequences. He who covers his sins will not prosper. Let me tell you what I believe and what I see as being a very dangerous scenario. Because the media has kept people in the dark, like I shared earlier in the broadcast about my mom. Because the media is keeping people in the dark. Because the media is covering up the malfeasance and the evidence of crimes. If something really does get turned around, where the media is going to be forced to report on it, people are going to really be caught off guard. And then they're going to blame Trump and the Republicans for trying to steal the election. Well, the fact of the matter is they're trying to save the integrity and credibility of our election system. And I can see a very dangerous scenario happening right now. Because we've got several states now where these hearings are being conducted. We've got several states now looking to hold back the certification of the electors pending further investigations. And the media is not reporting on any of that at all, to my knowledge, friends. The writer of Ecclesiastes, Solomon as well, said, "Moreover, I saw under the sun, in the place of judgment, wickedness was there." God rebukes and condemns wicked and corrupt judges. Solomon said, in the place of judgment, wickedness was there. And in the place of righteousness, iniquity was there. When we should have a media, when we should have big tech and big media being a place of righteousness, seeking the truth. There was a time when journalism and reporters sought for the truth, a place of righteousness. But Solomon said he found iniquity was there. Psalm 82, incredible psalm, enigmatic psalm. But Psalm 82 says that God stands in the congregation of the mighty. He judges among the gods. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? I don't have time to get into Psalm 82. It's an incredible psalm. But basically, it's a psalm where the psalmist is showing that God is the judge above all judges. When the Bible says that God stands in the congregation of the mighty, and I don't have time. I'm out of time. The bottom line is this. The psalm ends with, "Arise, O God, judge the earth in righteousness, for you shall inherit the nations." Oh man, I wish I could have gotten into this, but I'm out of time. In the meantime, folks, watch, stand fast in the faith, be brave, be strong, and let all that you do be done in love. God bless everybody. I'll be back next week for another edition of Open Up the Doors.